My name is Charlotte Baxter and I'm a printmaker from near Aberystwyth, and I currently have an exhibition here at Canfas until the end of the month. My work is primarily based on the natural world and the landscape. I feel most alive and connected when I'm out in nature, especially when I'm surrounded by water. And I'm particularly drawn to the places where water meets the land, and the contrast between the two elements are particularly inspiring for me. I start working by gathering sketches, notes and photographs from a walk, anything really that captures my attention. I then use these very rough sketches to create thumbnail drawings where I play with composition until I have a basic idea of the image. I then redraw the image to the size I want the print to be, and may continue to experiment by collaging layers of tracing paper. I work primarily with relief printing methods where I transfer an image to a block and carve away the areas that I don't want to print to leave a raised design on the surface of the block, which is the most labour-intensive part of the process. I like to include natural chisel marks of the carving tools to create a free pattern when I'm working. And I also use various tools to scratch the surface of the block to give areas of texture. When creating a print, there's the planning and carving of blocks, which I find quite labour intensive, and then there's the freedom and the thrill of experimenting and printing the blocks. And it's always an exciting moment to lift the paper and see the print, especially when working with layers of transparent colour. This one's called Tweeny Bach, and it's based on the Dyfi estuary and the sand dunes, and I've used the ash wood block again, combined with blind embossing for these bird forms here. So I wanted to give that kind of idea of like a fleeting moment in time. So in some lights you can see the birds, and then others they just disappear. I made this print during the lockdown, and it's of a tree which is just in the field right next to where I live. And what I found special about this tree is that it's actually 3 trees which have all grown together. So you have the hazel and the hawthorn and the blackthorn that have all intertwined to create this one tree, which looks completely different through each season. So I really wanted to capture this, and this print is actually hand burnished onto Japanese paper, and I've used the ash wood block to create the texture of the trunk of the tree. In these 3 pieces I was working in a slightly different way, so I was working on all 3 at the same time, and experimenting with lots of collage before making the final decisions on where I was going to print the layers. I was also really enjoying sort of the darker colours and the layering of the different shades of black on top of each other. I also used sheen collé in this one, where I took the grain of a piece of driftwood and printed it onto very fine Japanese paper, and then applied it to the print. I really tried to use the wood grain to its sort of best effect really in these prints, and I use an ash wood block, so I was very fortunate to kind of inherit an ash tree which is already planked. And my brother is a furniture maker, and he sanded the blocks back, and I've been able to use these for my prints. I've actually used the same ash block, the same length of block throughout the 3 prints to give them that connection. So they're titled Morning, Afternoon and Night, and so I wanted to give that sort of idea of continuation. This is a lino print inspired by the Cors Caron Nature Reserve by Tregaron, and it's just those amazing colours that you get in spring of the bright catkins against the kind of really deep blue, almost black water. This is a wood and lino cut print, and it's based on Cardigan, which is a wetland reserve near Tregaron, and I find it a really inspiring place. You've got the contrast between the land and the water, and I particularly love the kind of geometric shapes that you get through the reeds and the grasses. This is based on, it's more abstract, I guess, and it's near Nant Arian, which is just north of Aberystwyth. And in this piece I've used local ash wood block and sort of incorporated the grain of the wood block into the piece, and I've also used blind embossing technique where the paper is pushed into the kind of groove of the block to create a very subtle this is also based on Cardigan. I did like a series of prints of that area, and it's a lino print, and I like to use the natural marks that the tools make on the block to create the ripples of the wall. This is a woodcut print. There is one lino layer in it, but it's mainly woodcut. And I've also incorporated the wood grain to create the sort of currents of the sea and looking out over the coastal path of Cardigan. And I kind of just wanted to capture that vivid gold colour of the gorse in contrast with the sea, and those kind of dry knotted branches underneath.